Have you ever experienced something so crippling in your life that has made you feel broken? I have. Are you someone who has a giving heart but is struggling to feel good themselves? Are you consistently putting your needs aside to take care of everyone else? If so, you're not alone. Giving starts with giving to yourself so that you are able to give of yourself to other people. Isn't it time you took back control and discovered what makes you tick? Join me in my journey and find out how you can feel better about yourself, live your best life, and share that with others. Thinking of yourself, it doesn't make you selfish, it makes you brave. I'm Nelia, and this is the Giving Starts With You podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Giving Starts With You podcast. I'm your host, Nelia Hutt, and I'm so grateful that you've come here again to listen to another episode. And thank you so much for all your comments and your ideas for the show. And I'm so honored to have you guys come back every Monday for a new episode. I have met another new friend who's just this great gentleman who I've just met. His name is Bill Lee-Emery, and I'm so happy that he has agreed to come on the show. Welcome to the show, Bill. How are you?
I'm excellent, and I'm really happy to be here. I'm looking forward to what I sense already is going to be a wonderful conversation.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Thank you. And especially you're in Australia. So for us to connect schedules, this was brilliant. So thank you for taking the time out this morning. It's night where I am here in Canada, but it's all great. You know, the world becomes a smaller place as you meet more people online. I love it so much. So yeah, let's just dive right in, tell you a little bit about Bill. So Bill Lee-Emery, he is, as you can tell right through the screen, very passionate about what he does. I mean, that's the first thing I picked up when I met him online here. But after over 40 years of working with national and international corporations and businesses, world-class skydivers, cyclists, triathletes, golfers, and thousands of individuals who want to succeed in life, Bill has distilled his knowledge and experience into a series of books that have just one goal, which is an amazing goal: to help people become better versions of themselves. I love this so much. And this is what attracted me to your topic and your brilliance around bulletproofing from criticism is so important for everyone. So yeah, Bill, thank you again. And there's so much I want to talk about. Honestly, I'm so passionate about these things. And okay, first of all, I'm just going to ask the typical first question. Where does your passion for helping people learn about themselves come from? Like, how did you get into all this?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. So for myself, it came from my own finding about who I am, mm-hmm. and finding out where I've always been interested in people and what makes them tick. And I realized the reason I want to find out what makes people tick is a purely selfish reason, because I want to find out what makes me tick. And often what happens for human beings when they find something that works for them, for a lot of people, there's this unconscious, almost irrepressible compulsion to want to tell other people about the goodies that they've found. So as I first started to explore who I am, what I'm here for, etc., over 40 years ago, it didn't take very long for me to go, oh, wow, this is far out. How long has this been going on for? And just wanting it to share to other people, because there's a natural thing with human beings that when we find something that works, the gift of giving it to another is so it's so juicy. It's so,
I love that.
yeah, it's just like we can't help ourselves. Well, I can't. I won't speak for everybody. But it's just like when I find something really neat, it's like you find a really good movie or a really good coffee shop or whatever it might be, and there's like blah 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 blah, telling everyone that you know, because you found a treasure, you found a gift. And so, early in my career, when I first started learning about myself, I started to do workshops on a whole variety of different things, many topics I didn't know too much about, but I had a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of, as we say in Australia, piss and vinegar, just like go do it and we'll just see what happens. So it kind of started from that. And the criticism part, that we are all subject to criticism, whether it's internal criticism from ourselves or people from other people. Mm-hmm. And early in my teaching career, I was working with a group of special education teachers. These were people with master's degrees or PhDs in education. And I was teaching about accelerated learning, something I was passionate about way back then and was doing for some years. But I don't have a degree in education. So I was going into the lion's den academically and teaching about stuff they didn't know. And it was in the second week that things kind of fell apart. Mm. So I was talking about a model called Transactional Analysis, which is one of my favorite models of human behavior. You just go do a search on TA or Transactional Analysis. It's a very simple model, but it's very deep and profound and very, very practical. Anyway, so I was talking about this model, and I noticed one of the participants was starting to get a little bit edgy, a little bit, fidgeting and stuff like this. And then I made what I thought was an innocent comment. I said that I didn't think that guilt was a good way of getting kids to do things, and I still don't. Well, this woman just burst into the most vitriolic personal attack I've ever had in my entire life. No one's come anywhere near close to her. And just had the Scud missiles coming towards me. And so I'm in my early 30s, something like this. And, you don't expect to be attacked in a workshop, So, but fortunately, I learned a couple of things. One, to keep myself centered and to breathe into my belly. And my brain was working rapidly to work out, well, what the heck do I do now? But I'd learned enough from my early training that if it was a game of chess, I had her in checkmate in 2 questions, in 2 moves. So, and she just basically shut up. And so that was a really good, you can have the theory about something, but the lived experience is a thing that really embeds, what you've learned and then made use of it. So, but the book itself, so I've been involved in men's gatherings here in Australia for the last 8 or 9 years, presenting on a whole variety of different things. And I was just sitting listening to conversations around the mealtime. And I noticed a lot of men were talking about how they have difficulty in sometimes getting feedback from other people or criticism from, maybe their partners, whatever it might be. And I thought, okay, I've got some lived experience about this. So I created a workshop for the next year and I ran the program. It went down really well. And then I did the program. I then put it on Udemy. So it's like 2 hours and 40 minutes of video.
Okay.
And then I was sitting one day, just meditating and going, so what's next? And the idea of a book came up. And now this is my 5th book. So I've written 11 books before. And I was thinking, well, what's to write about? Everything's been written about, blah, blah, blah. I mean, duh. And then like a flash of lightning, the idea, well, Bill, you've done the program. You have created videos. Why don't you just write the book about how to be bulletproof from criticism? Like, duh. Sometimes I may have been teaching accelerated learning back in the day, but sometimes I could be a bit dumb, a bit slow.
The information, it's all there already, right? You just got it,
Yeah, so that's how the book started.
I love that. And when that woman said that to you, it's almost, I'm glad you said that. You sometimes have to just stop, because sometimes it's easier, rather than knowing how to answer somebody when they're criticizing you, it's easier to say, what should I not do, right? Like, I don't want to make it worse. I don't want to look like it's affected me. Like, there's just so much stuff in there that Yeah, it's more about them than about me. Like there's just so many things. So I'm glad that you told that story for sure. Like clearly nobody likes criticism, but I think more so for heart-centered people like we are, and for introverts and people just more empaths, because I think that the criticism, we make it affect us more personally. And it can be so hurtful. It can affect our confidence, it can affect our sense of self. And sometimes it makes us question who we are and all these things. We start to question all these things. And I don't know about you, but in my experience, it takes so long for us to build ourselves up. But when criticism happens and you don't know what to do with it, it can crush you in a second. So that's why this topic is so important, I think, today, because it takes so long to fix something that's wrong. And in an instant, it's so unfair that can all just be crumbled and taken away by criticism. And yeah, so there's just so much. So what do you do? What do you do when somebody hits you with something and it's just kind of like comes out of left field? You're left there hanging. You don't know what to do. And how do you prevent that from like affecting everything that you feel about yourself?
Yeah, so that's a big question. So let
I
me
know.
kind of,
Sorry.
no, that's fine, because
I need to know.
this is really what I really explore in the book. And so it comes from personal experience, but also understanding some basic principles of that can, when I say being bulletproof from criticism, it's an almost bulletproof, because it depends on the personality. As you say, people that are empaths, people are more heart-centered. Literally, we can take things to heart. And so let me talk about the linguistics of taking something to heart. So I'm holding a pen in my hand. Now, for a lot of creative people, for example, or sensitive people, let's say this, I make this pen through my own design, my own hands, I make this pen. And I say to the world, hey, world, what do you think of this pen? Now, someone might say, well, that's a lousy pen. Or someone might say, that's a beautiful pen. Now, whether they say it's a lousy pen or a beautiful pen, that is an opinion. Mm. The fact about this pen is it's mostly black and there's a little bit of white writing on it. So one of the default programs I have in my head is when someone's talking about something or they're voicing something, is it a fact or is it an opinion? Because if I'm not able to distinguish between a fact and an opinion, then I'm open, then I'm gullible. Anyone can tell me anything and I'll believe them. And when I hear politicians start a sentence by saying, I don't know what happens in Canada, it certainly happens in Australia. Yes. The fact of the matter is, and I know they're going to give me some bullshit opinion, and it's not going to be facts. Fact. So I've become much clearer when someone's saying about this, then I'll question, is it a fact or is it an opinion? Mm. Now, let's say taking the same pen, someone might say that's a lousy pen or a beautiful pen, but either way, they are talking about the pen. So if I'm not able to distinguish between the pen and who I am, because they're separate. So I might create the pen, but I'm not the pen. Mm. And when people take things to heart, they literally take the pen and they put it right close to their heart. So if someone criticizes the pen, they take it to mean that they're criticizing them, and not just who they are, but their deep sense of self. That's why if you're not able to distinguish this or make this kind of like a habit, because it takes a little bit of a while, you can hear the theory, but it might take a little while to kind of embed and become a practice. So if you were to call me a goose, for example, Lelia, now it might be something stronger, but we'll just keep it to be a goose. So the first thing that goes through my head, if you call me a goose, well, is that a fact or is that an opinion? Have I just sprouted feathers? Am I making honking noises? Am I waddling as I walk? In which case, maybe I've turned into a goose and I haven't noticed. In which case, I need to go and see a vet or a doctor. But so if I'm not able to distinguish fact and opinion, then I'm gone, I'm lost. So the second thing is on this, whose opinion about me am I going to honor? Now, if you take, when I was at school, bullying stopped at the school gates, or maybe, they might follow you home for a little bit, but then they leave you alone. But nowadays, bullying is 24 hours, 7 days a week, forever and ever and ever, because of social media, because of smartphones. I don't know why they call them smartphones. They should call them dumb machines, in my view. But that's my opinion. It's not a fact. It's just my opinion. So if we're not able to distinguish the difference between a fact and opinion, we're gone. If we don't distinguish the difference between who we are and what we do, then when someone criticizes something that we do, we make it about who we are. And that's not true. They are different things. They are connected, but they are different things.
And we all learn this, I think, just from being children, like growing up. We learn that, your job is who you are, but it's not.
No.
Like for me, like I have severe anxiety. Well, it's managed now, but I used to feel like I was my anxiety. I am my depression, and I'm not. It's a part of who I am. And the more you embrace that, like, I love what you said, because the more you embrace those things as being separate, the less you will hurt and suffer from what other people say to you. And I think that is you're right. I think that is the very first thing that we have to do. And it might be a little bit tricky because it's not natural for us, right? So, but thank you for saying that, because if you don't realize it, I think, that has to be the first step. I agree, like completely.
Yeah. And can I add something else here? And this is something I've really learned in the last 5 or 6 years, 5, 7 years. And that is our use of language is really important. So, for example, if I say, that scares me, then I'm giving the responsibility for my fear onto somebody else. By just saying, that scares me. If I change my language and say, I'm scaring myself about blah, 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 then the responsibility and therefore the power is with me.
I never thought of it that way, but it's so true.
So let me add another thing to this.
Yes.
And this comes from, I think it's Noam Chomsky, Bates, I forget his first name. When he was talking about language, and he was talking about feelings and emotions, and he said that emotions are things that we do. In other words, they are verbs. So if I am sad, another way of saying it, a more accurate linguistic, biological, neurological way of saying that is I am sadding. If I am angry, I am angering.
Makes sense.
If I am anxious, I'm anxiousing. In other words, I'm doing the anxiousing. I'm doing anxiety. I'm doing it. So when I have suffered from anxiety and depression, and pretty much everyone listening to this would have some degree of experience with either anxiety or depression or both. And it depends on, to what level. And I understand there's a whole bunch of reasons why that might be true. So I certainly don't want to trivialize people's experience. But what I would like to do is to shine a light on the bit that they can take care of. So, for example, if I want to do some depressing for myself, not that I do it very often, but if I want to do that, what I have to do is think of all the things I've failed at in my life, all the missed opportunities, all the people I've hurt, all the things that I've done that I'm not happy about. Then I need to look into the future and think about all the nasty, disastrous things that can ever happen to me, and take my resources and make them smaller and smaller and smaller, and make the world's issues bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's a great way of me to depress myself. If I want to make myself anxious, what I got to think about is all the scary things in the world that could possibly happen to me, amp it up by 10 or 100. And that's a great way for me to create fear. So fear, anger, sadness, and joy, the 4 basic emotions that we have, are all things that we do. There's not like a cloud, and this is one of my mentors helped me to understand this. when I'd just become separated and went through a period of depression. And he helped me to understand that there's not a black cloud that cruises around the sky looking for people to pick on, because that's the way it felt. But that's not true. That's the way of what I was doing it on the inside. And at the same time, because I've done a lot of public speaking, been on TV, etc., in my early days of doing this, scared the shit out of me. I'm an introvert. But for me to go talk to a whole bunch of people was the worst thing I could think of back then. And the level of fear that I would have, but there was just something inside of me says, Bill, I don't care. You've got stuff to say, and you're going to learn how to say it. And here's the first bit. So, and I've done skydiving, I've climbed mountains, I've done a whole bunch of things. A lot of people go crazy, and I've also learned to manage my fearing. So, thank you for mentioning that, because for a lot of people, if we don't listen to our language, then our language, whatever the default is, will basically run us. And we have little power or agency, is a groovy word these days. We have little agency with ourselves. And I want people to be able to be much more aware, conscious, and deliberate in how they choose their language and how they take responsibility for their emotional reactions, their mental reactions, and the things that they do. So, and that's really part of what the whole book's about. And in essence, if I could tell you that the essence of the book is it's always an inside job. Always.
I love that so much. And you were just saying, just to comment on something you were saying, depending on the language, you're projecting things on other people, right? So when you say, that makes me afraid, or that makes me, I used to do that a lot when my son was young, and then he would turn to me without experiencing that thing, and he would say, oh, does that mean that I need to be scared of it too? Do you know what I mean? Because you're projecting it. So when you said that, that was the first thing that came to my mind, because I'm like, yeah, am I giving people, am I opening up a can of worms here? Am I giving people an option that they should be, right? And the reason why I wanted to stop you earlier was because, it's so easy to say, this is the first thing that we do, and then move on to the next. But that was such a big thing, because if it's easy to just go by it quickly because there's so much more to talk about. But if you don't conquer that first step, then the rest is sort of just waiting in limbo, right? Yeah. So thank you for explaining that a bit more.
It's a pleasure.
So what do you do after that? Sorry.
Okay. Okay. So here's what this next part is probably, if I was to give you a bar of gold, this is a cavern full, a cave full of gold coming away. This is probably the best thing I think I can share with you and your listeners. And this again was, so let me just say something here. All the things in my book are bits of wisdom that I've collected from my mentors and other people. I didn't make any of them up. I just happen to be expressing them through my own voice and my own stories. And so the wisdom is eternal. And this is one of the things that I learned 40 years ago that really shaped how I deal with things that are upsetting. So my mentor, a man by the name of John Barnaby, who lives in Tasmania these days, we were learning about transactional analysis. And when you start to look at transactional analysis, the model itself, it's quite simple, but it's quite profound. And so we're doing a year-long program with John. And one weekend, he put up on the flip chart the statement, life is meaningless. Now, that was a bit of a shock to us because we were coming here to learn a whole bunch of things about the meaning of life. And what do you mean life is meaningless? Anyway, so he went on to explain another flip chart, and he put the word event. And he said, every day is full of hundreds, if not thousands of events. Us talking together is an event. Someone listening to this or watching this is an event. And what he was saying is that every event in life, every event, there is no exception to this, is meaningless or innocent. In other words, it's just the event. However, human beings are compelled to make meanings out of everything that happens to us.
So true.
For example, I'm walking down the street, I see a friend of mine that I know, I wave to them and they completely ignore me. in nanoseconds, I've made some kind of meaning about him. Oh, how rude he is, and doesn't he like me? And then I might think, oh, maybe he doesn't like me. Maybe there's something wrong with me, and maybe it's just him that doesn't like me. Maybe no one in that crowd likes me. Or what if it's bigger than that? Gosh, maybe no one likes me. And I can take that simple event and make a meaning out of it, and I can crank it up until I've got World War III going inside my head. Or I can make a completely different meaning and go, well, hey, he looks really distracted. I might just check with him later on today and see if everything's okay. So 2 meanings out of the same event, but there could be a dozen different meanings on that exact same event. Now, if you look at the things that are happening around the world and how divisive people are and how divided they are about their opinions, because the facts seem to be an ever fluctuating medium, how people can get so stuck in one thing and go, this is the only meaning that you can attach to this event. So this is what John said. He said, every meaning that you place is always self-chosen. You choose whether it's A or B or C or D or Z. You choose the meaning that you make. And whatever meaning that you make will then become your reality. So if I look out the window, it's a rainy day, and I say to myself, oh God, it's a rainy day. How boring. I can't go out and play in the garden. That's one way. Or you go, wow, it's a rainy day. A great excuse for me to read my book and drink cups of tea. So same rainy day, it's innocent, it's meaningless, but I'll put some kind of meaning on it. And then he said, and this is really the kicker. So from event, we go to a meaning. The meaning becomes our reality. The meaning is always self-chosen. And then John said, it doesn't matter whether the meaning that you're making is true or not. That's not the best question. The best question is the meaning that I'm making useful or not? And that took a little while for me to kind of understand and get a sense of what he was talking about. But a week later, I had an opportunity to take this nice little bit of theory and put it into practice. So my girlfriend at the time, I was at home reading a book. My girlfriend came home and she was really pissed off, had a bad day at work, and she had a certain expression on her face. And I went into, I have to help her mode. You're okay, la, 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 which made her even more pissed off because she just wanted me to be me rather than be somebody else. And I realized that I was making meaning about what her expression on her face meant and what therefore I had to do. And that meaning was totally my hallucination. It wasn't true at all. It was just something that I made up. So whenever I get angsty about something, upset about something in the world, or upset about something my partner said, a friend said, or something I do, I will go through this. What's the meaning that I'm making about this event? And there'll be layers. There'll be the surface layer, and there'll be something underneath it, and then something underneath it, and then something underneath it. And when I get to the bit at the bottom, and then I can ask myself, is this true or not? Or is it useful or not? And if it's not useful, I've learned over the years to drop it pretty quickly. Sometimes I'd still hang on to it, because sometimes hanging on to stuff can be, there's a buzz out of it. People like being self-righteous. There's a certain juiciness about being right about something. It may not give you a lot of happiness, but you can feel right about it. So it all comes down to, is the meaning that I'm making useful or not? And if it's not useful, we need to drop it. Otherwise, it's said that pain is inevitable in life. You have to be born and there's pain, but suffering is an added optional extra. So if we want to suffer, just hang on to meanings that are not useful to you, and you can keep on suffering and suffering, that you can tell everybody else, and maybe they'll suffer too. So you can have the suffer party and all feel really good about feeling really bad. But hey, I'm done with that stuff. I'm done with that stuff.
And that's what we're used to doing, right? So we're comfortable there. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah. And when you say meaning, to me, I interchange it with the word too of perception. And just because all of our experiences make up how we feel about things.
Yes.
So everything, I might be looking, that's why you can have 8 brothers and sisters in the same home and nobody feels the same about one situation, right? Or one event.
Exactly.
or one thing. So no, that's yeah, I like the way he broke that down for you and how you're using it in your own practice. Sometimes I will catch my husband and I think he's got a certain look on his face. And now I've just learned to just ask him.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I put myself into these, like you're saying, you just, you get caught up on all these negative things, because that's where the brain tends to go, I guess. And that's what you're trying to show us is, no, you can stop it and choose what it is that you believe and what it is that you think. Sometimes when I'm confused and I don't know what to do, I just ask. I'm like, am I reading the thing on your face correctly? And he might turn around and say, oh, I've got a really bad headache, and it has nothing to do with me. And then I'm like, okay, just walk away and it's all done. But other times it's absolutely true. You do have to stop yourself because, there's so many painful things out there. Why create more for yourself? Honestly.
Yeah. And well, some people do like drama. And if everything is going smoothly in their life, they'll agitate something so they can have some drama. So they can either solve the problem or be the victim or the persecutor or whatever. So some people are drama queens, and maybe queen's not the right word. Drama kings might be better, whatever.
Yes. No, I understand.
Yeah, they're into drama. And so they hate it when things are quiet. So they will create something so they can experience some drama. And
but that could come from personal trauma too. Maybe there's just so many things out there. So the first step you said is to separate yourself, right? Like the pen idea. So separate yourself, or I'm more than just my job, like all the things we were talking about. And the second step, you're saying, I just want to be able to understand, because if I understand it, I can help with other people understand.
Yeah.
So the second part of what you're saying is to go through the meaning and then just really think about what feelings and what emotions you're attaching to it, and go down those layers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
But another really important part, and this kind of speaks to your podcast too, which is about self-care. So one of the things I learned from the TA model, the transactional model, so very simply, they talk about the parental part, the adult part, and the child part. And the parent's got 2 parts. One is the critical parent. Now, you must, you have, you ought to. So there's a certain type of voice. And there's the nurturing parent, which is the more emotionally supportive part. So when the teacher, going back to the early story, was attacking me, I was breathing into my belly. And the first thing I did is I got my nurturing parent to emotionally support me. And I've become very good at doing this. So my nurturing parent would remind me the value of the model that I was teaching, my passion for it, the number of people that I'd helped through this model. So I was doing a lot of emotional reassuring, because as soon as the person started attacking me, my belly just went, tightened up, because that's often, that's where we'll often do our fearing, will be in our belly. It's kind of like saying there's some danger out there, so I'm just letting you know. So that's what the body would do. The body is a beautiful thing. It was always telling us the things that we need to know if we haven't kind of cottoned onto them. So I do some breathing into my belly. I do some nurturing of myself and making myself feel safe, because the safer I can feel within myself, that's why I say it's an inside job. And this takes practice. It's like for a lot of people, I'll ask them, like in a seminar, I'll say, okay, so write some, I'll give you 1 minute to write down all the things you don't like about yourself. And the pen's just going like crazy. Then I'll say, okay, now I want you to write down all the things you like about yourself. And people looking around the room, looking at other people's papers, like, where the heck do we get this from? That we have such an imbalance that we're not able to emotionally accept the goodness of who we are, and to honor it, and to recognize it, and to establish it as deeply as we can. So here I am. All this is happening in nanoseconds. She's attacking me. I'm breathing into my belly. I'm doing the nurturing parent stuff. my adult, which is like my thinker, is working out rapidly, so why is she attacking me? Now, people only attack if they've got something to defend. Otherwise, why bother unless they're a psychopath, in which case it's outside this conversation. So I'm thinking, okay, why is she attacking me? Then I got it. Of the 20 people in the room, if someone was to be the epitome of a critical parent, she was it. Her body language, her verbal language, the way she was, bossy and controlling. And so I had just explained to her peer group, PhD, Master's in Education, I've just exposed her. So I wasn't dealing with a 30, 40-year-old woman. I was dealing with a 5-year-old kid who's been caught out doing something nasty, and now everyone knows what it is. So she was basically attacking me to shut me down.
And it didn't work. Good for you.
It did not work.
You got to kill them with kindness.
Indeed. Mind you, if I ever get to meet this person again, I'll give them a big hug, because I've told this story to thousands of people by now, and people have understood the process because of what happened that day. So there's a blessing in everything if you care to look deep enough and long enough. It's
true. And these are all things that you have to, I think it's a skill, right? So I think you have to learn all of these things. And then so that when something happens, like what happened to you in that moment, that you're ready. Because when you're standing there, you don't have time to go in your head and go, okay, what am I supposed to do now? And then you kind of like, because for me, I would be like, if somebody said that to me, I would like want the floor to open and suck me in, because like, sometimes I surprise myself that I even do the podcast, because I don't like to speak in front of people. Like, I don't like to, it's just because I'm passionate about these topics. But standing in front of, a crowd like that, if somebody had said that to me, I don't know how I would have recovered. So to be honest with you, so these are things I think, like, along with good comebacks and all these, kind but firm comeback, I think they're all things we have to practice before we need them.
Yeah, indeed. And because I've been around this particular model for about 3, 4, maybe 5 years, I had a good enough understanding about myself and how to emotionally support myself. But if I hadn't had that training, then I probably would have done one of two things. I would have collapsed, or I would have attacked her. And if I'd attacked her, I would have had 20 people against me. And I don't like those kind of odds. And if I'd collapsed, the class would have it would have been useless. Everyone would have walked out, and I would have walked out and wouldn't come back the next week.
But not only that, but sorry to interrupt you, but if you attacked her back, even though she made the first move, it would have felt to everybody watching that you were the one out, that they should, that would have been worse for you than anything. Yeah,
because professionally, it would be suicide to have done that, because you just have to be better than that. So I'm so glad that I'd had the training beforehand.
Great.
And so everything in the book is learnable. They're simply skills that you can read, you can understand, you can apply, and you can learn them, because I learned them. I wasn't born with the skill set. I had to learn it myself. And so it's a matter of going, is it important enough? And we haven't even spoken about the inner critic. And for some people, their inner critic is like, it's there all the time. They do something and it's like, you're not good enough, like the imposter syndrome, or what makes you think you can do this? And it can be debilitating. And I talk in the book a couple of stories in my primary school or elementary school years, where 2 teachers made comments about me, which basically shaped how my life went from there. But the meaning of it, I won't tell you those stories, but it'll take too long. But the meaning of that is, or the takeaway is, both those comments were innocent things, meaningless things. The teacher said something and I made a meaning out of it. That meaning I embedded in my psyche about who I am, and therefore box myself in or not as to what I can do. And so, that
isn't it?
Innocent comments. So it's like, and as teachers and parents, we need to be aware and conscious and responsible for the things that we we tell our children or grandchildren, because when we're young, we're like a sheet of paper with very little ink on it. And just one little mark can actually make a big, big difference.
I had a friend who, in elementary school really did believe, because one teacher kept saying to her, oh, you'll never amount to anything, and you'll never, and she believed it so much that it really did affect the future, and it's just so sad, because nobody should really have that, what's the word I'm looking for? Nobody should have that right to change how somebody feels about themselves, but it happens every day. And I'm sure, not out of malice, but I'm sure I have said things that people have taken to mean different things. And we do have to be very careful the language that we use and the things that we say. But the inner critic, it's there for everyone, isn't it?
I'm actually starting a new program this year on how to turn your inner critic into your best friend. And that's really a process. But part of that is, let me just explain one little bit of it. The first book I wrote 30 years ago is called Stop Procrastinating. And so for some people who are like chronic procrastinators, and I'll take that as a habit, something that we do. And often, there's the parts of us that we like and are socially acceptable, and we show them to the world. But there's the other bits of us that we don't want people to know. We're messy, we're untidy, we're late, we're this, whatever. So we tend to hide those things away, but they're still there. Let me take procrastination. If someone is a procrastinator, then they probably disparage that part of themselves. They probably insult themselves. It's almost like they want to push that part of their psyche away from themselves. But the problem with that is, the further away it is from you, the less chance you've got of intervening. So that phrase, keep your friends close and your enemies closer? Do you know why they say that? Why would you keep your enemies closer? Do you know why?
Keep an eye on them.
Yeah, indeed. Like if they're like this far away, like hands,
no surprises coming.
Then you can breathe the same air as them, intimately what they're like. If they're on that side of the planet, you've got no chance. So part of this then of turning your inner critic into your best friend is to bring your inner critic closer, to have a conversation, because underneath every behavior, there's some positive intention for the human being, no matter what it is. And there's a model that I'll explore in the book that really kind of illustrates this. But basically, if there's part of it that you're pushing away, stop pushing it away. Bring it closer. Ask it questions as if you're starting a new friendship. And that's really the essence of what we're doing here, creating a friendship with the parts of us that we want to push away.
Yeah, and it's so important, and it's one of the hardest things to do, because we want to push it away. It's not natural. Who wants to look, who wants to deal with stuff? But it's when you're feeling all that crappiness and all those difficult emotions that you're on the brink of something good.
Yes, yeah. Like Leonard Cohen says in one of his songs, the crack lets the light in. I forget which song of Leonard Cohen's it is, but it's the crack that lets the light in. So we need to, in a sense, embrace our shadow part, the bits of us that we don't really show to the world, because that's where we can get the most leverage with ourselves and bring out more of what we've got, as long as we've got the courage and the willingness to go look at the bits of us that aren't as pretty or as whatever it might be, that we'd like the world to know.
It's so true, and I love that we're talking about this. I've had some previous guests come on and talk about the bullying side, or reasons why people would criticize, but not the side that we're talking about today, which is what do we do about it? Because there are both sides, right? So sometimes we take so much time in trying to understand why somebody's doing that, because why they want to hurt us. And the fact is, what's said is said. Let's deal with how we're gonna, rather than wearing masks and putting up this armor to protect ourselves, like we need to confront things more. I think confront the things that hurt in order to heal them, right?
Yeah, indeed. And it does take a certain willingness and courage to do that. We can hide ourselves away from those things for, forever, if you like, but they'll still be affecting us, and that's the problem. When someone says something about us when we're young, and it's still going in the background, but it's still affecting us. So we need to bring that to the forefront and bring it into the light. And one of my favorite sayings comes from the Course in Miracles. I don't know if you're familiar with that series of books. And it's that love brings up everything unlike itself for the purpose of healing. So love itself wants us to be the best that we can be and to bring all of our gifts into the world, and to acknowledge and accept that as the true gifts of what we are as human beings. So love itself will bring up everything unlike itself, all our fears, all our doubts, all our angsting, whatever, for us to bring it into light and go, hey, is this true? Is it real? Do I need to keep it? What do I need to do with it? How do I transform it into something useful? And some of the people that are the most brilliant on the planet, they have taken their pain, their angst, their whatever it might be, and they have been able to turn it around, find the gifts within that, and be of so much service to the world. So coming back to your original question, why is it that, when we've found something good, we want to share it with the world? Well, one is we have a lived experience about whatever it might be. And you can't get that from a book of theory. You just cannot. They're different things. It's like explaining rain to someone in a book or going out and being in the rain. It's completely different. So when we do come from a lived experience of something, our understanding of that is rich, it's nuanced, it's deep. And so we have more insights to give to other people that haven't been down that path, or they haven't been able to express it or explore it as much as that person has. And there's such a buzz in to be able to do that, because giving is a selfish thing. I've spoken with other people about, is it better?
I say that all the time.
Is it better to give or receive? And well, the truth is, it's better to do both. It's like me asking someone, is it better to breathe in or breathe out? Well, you better do both, otherwise you're going to die. Well, actually you're going to fall unconscious, and then your body will say, I don't know what you're doing, dude, but, breathe in and out. It's much better for us. So, giving and receiving needs to be done equally. So when we're able to receive something, there's a natural desire to complete the circle and to give to others. And there's a lot of joy in that, because then, the biggest buzz for me is when anything that I've said or done in workshops, whatever, and years later, people say to me, you might not remember this, Bill, but you said blah, blah, blah. I'm going, no, I don't remember that. But they do. And it's had a profound influence on them. So it's like we've all got these little stones, and here's a lake, and we can drop these little pebble stones into the lake and the ripples will go out. And we never know where the ripples go to, and we don't have to. It's not our responsibility. And we, at one stage, were at the end or the result of someone else's ripple, someone else's pebble, because this wisdom just gets passed from generation to generation. It gets wider and deeper. And, it's in a sense we're all going in the same direction. Some are ahead of us because of age or experience or training, whatever, and some are behind because they haven't caught up. And there are people to the side of us. But every one of us is equal as a human being. No one is greater or less than anybody else. We just have different experiences. So,
and thank goodness for that, because life would be boring if we, And what you were talking about earlier, it's like I'm the poster child for what not to do, because that's what happened to me. Was I didn't want to face the ugly stuff, So instead of doing that, I suppressed my grief for 12 years, and it brought up all of this other stuff. And here I am with my personal experience, and here you are with your personal experience. And all we want to do is help other people, because we know that there's light on the other side, and all we want to do is help and give that to them. But in giving that to them, you're completely right. It also gives to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So I say in the trailer of my show that, speaking about yourself and taking care of yourself, it's brave, it's not, I believe that for me, giving is also a selfish thing.
Yeah, totally.
Like you were saying that. And I started off giving that way because I'm like, wow, this really makes me feel good. I'm going to do more of this and more of this. And then I realized, hey, people are benefiting from this, It's not just me. And honestly, this is now why I've created my business around that motto, because to me, that's the number one thing that helped me manage all of my things. Yes. Was the giving and learning to receive. So thank you for talking about that, because we learn not to give to ourselves, that just give and give and give, and then we burn out, and then we're left with nothing to give, and everything falls apart, right?
Yeah. So we need to learn, like when I said everything's an inside job, we need to learn how to be our best friends. It's like, breathing in and out. It's giving and receiving. You can breathe out, you can give to other people, but if you don't take a breath in, that's why self-care is such an important, it's not a luxury, it's an absolute necessity. Like mothers, and this is a generalization, but mothers can be very bad at taking in. My mum, for example, she would wait till everyone was sitting down and eating before she'd come and sit. We'd say, come on, Mum, come and sit down. No, you go ahead. Giving. The problem with that is if someone is always giving, what gets added to that unconsciously, if nothing else, is a little bit of resentment.
Okay? Yes, absolutely.
And we are not designed sustainably to keep on giving without receiving. So when you understand that giving is a selfish act, and I have no issue with the word selfish. It's self-full might be a better thing. We need to be able to take care of ourselves as parents before we can take care of our kids. And just coming back to something that you kind of mentioned, and that is, I don't know if you know the story of the old lion and the young lion in the jungle. Have you heard that story?
No, I haven't. I don't think I have.
Okay, so very briefly, so this old lion, he's in the jungle, he's the king of the jungle, etc. He's sitting up on a little hill, and he's got, war wounds and scars and stuff because he's been around a long time, lots of fights, etc., lots of adventures. And he's looking down the clearing, you can see a young lion. And he sees a young lion, goes, wow, I remember what it used to be like that young dude down there, full of piss and vinegar and aspirations and whatever it might be, and fearless and a bit stupid sometimes. And says to himself, I'd love to, have a chat with him, just tell him some of the things that I've learned and maybe make his pathway easier. Then you flash down to the young lion. The young lion looks up, he sees the young lion, goes, wow, look at him. He's been around like forever. He is like a legend. He would have so many stories to share. And I wish I could talk to him, but what would he want to talk to a young dude like me? So the truth is, at some stage, we'll always be a young lion or a young lioness. And somewhere along the line, we'll get to hopefully be an old lion or an old lioness. And we need the other. The old lion is such a pleasure to share the gifts that you've learned because of that selfish reason of giving, of the buzz that it gives you. And for the young lion to get, that's why I say to a lot of younger people in particular, find mentors. My daughter, who's 31 now, has a mentor and had several mentors through her career. And that has been so helpful because they can just go, well, in the scheme of things, you go here, you can do this, you can do that. Or let me introduce you to this person, or go and study this. So they make their path easier, which means that there's more wisdom that goes out into the world. There's more intelligence that goes out into the world. And at some stage, I know my daughter will be a mentor. Well, actually, she already has in some ways, but she'll be a mentor. So the old lion, young lion is not really dependent on age. It can be a 12-year-old helping their 6-year-old brother or sister.
Yes.
So the process starts way before.
I love that.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that story. I can really see everybody has gifts, and even if you don't know what they are, the more reason to find out more about yourself, to figure those out. It's so important. And I completely agree about the word selfish, like completely agree. And we talk about that a lot here on the show. And we all need a little bit more of that, self-care for sure.
Boundaries.
Beautiful.
Boundaries.
Yeah. And it's okay to take that time for yourself. It's more than okay. And how you were mentioning your mom, and how my mom does the same thing. So everybody needs to sit down. I remember my mom making tea for everybody, and we're like, well, she's like, well, I've got to make some more. And I'm like, it's okay. We can just share what we have, you know? No, I'll just make some more. You guys go ahead. And then as soon as she turned around and was ready with her cup of tea, everybody was gone. Like they had all had their tea and left.
No.
And she stood there looking at me going, well, I guess I'm going to have it by myself. I'm like, well, you told us to go ahead. So if we don't go ahead, you get upset.
Indeed.
And if we do go ahead, you know, it's the same with dinner time. Here we are, Christmas, we're sitting around the table. It's okay. You know, I want to serve everybody. And then you sit down and everybody's done because, you know, and then what are you left with? So you really do need to love yourself. And so
and it comes down to boundaries and having healthy boundaries with ourselves and with other people. And my friends know me that if there's biscuits on a plate and everyone's had a biscuit and there's one left, and then someone says to me, Bill, would you like the last biscuit? If I want the last biscuit, I would say yes. So they only offer me things if they're willing to give them to me.
Because you're honest.
Because I know, because I'm honest. And the other thing is too, if someone says, Bill, can you do this? And I don't want to, I'll say no. Sometimes I give a reason, sometimes I won't, not appropriate, whatever it might be. But the other thing is, if I offer something to someone, I do it not out of a sense of duty, and I had to learn this, not out of a sense of duty or should or whatever. I'll do it because I want to. And it will be from my heart, not from any sense of I should be doing this because of whatever, which means that there's, and I love it when my friends do the same thing.
Oh, yes.
As I mentioned before, we live in an eco-village here in Crumbin Valley, and we have a bathhouse, we have a spa and saunas, etc. And so a few of us were in the sauna the other day and chatted away, and the conversation got to be quite loud and raucous. And one of the other people who I didn't know said, would you mind all being quiet, please? Here, the sound is really reverberating. It's quite loud. And I'm going, yeah, good on you, dude. Thank you for speaking up.
Yes.
And saying, I'm uncomfortable with the level of noise. Can you all just still keep talking, but just keep the volume down? And there was silence. And I'm in my head, I'm going, yeah, good on you, dude. Like, that's great. Like,
yeah, because chances are, if one person is thinking it, somebody else is thinking it too, right?
So this is about being honest about what you want and what you don't want, and having the willingness and having the internal security to be able to ask that. And without making a demand, it's just a request. And so all of my clients, pretty much, I suggest that they go learn assertive behavior, either do an online course or read a book. So they learn some of the phrases to use, the body language, and they practice it before they ever get to need it. So when someone says, blah, 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 they've already got the language, they've already had the practice, they know what to say. And boundaries is one of the things that I believe we all need to learn. Actually, babies are really good at boundaries. When you attempt to feed a baby,
we're done.
A mashed potato, and they close their mouth, they're going, I'm not letting that stuff in here. That's the first intuitive body response. Going, I don't want any more. Forget your games and all the things you're going to play. I just don't want any more. And it's a pity as parents, we don't go, hey, I get you, dude. Like, you're the baby. You know what you want. You know what you don't want.
Instead, we're teaching. Instead, we're teaching our children to say the right thing so that we don't get offended.
Indeed, we're force feeding them.
Yeah. Wow. I love this so much. We have talked so much more. About so many things. We could go on forever. But
I'm very happy, Nalia, to come back sometime and talk
I'd love that. I would love that. Honestly, I enjoyed our conversation so much. So much we could talk about. But where can we find your book, Bill? Where can we,
Okay, so it's on Amazon.
Yes.
Either .com or .com.au, depending on where you are in Australia. And I also, if your listeners or viewers want to do this, I have a free test. It's basically a scorecard, and you can test yourself about your willingness to be bulletproof.
I saw that. That's amazing.
Yeah. So if you go to my website, which is bulletproofromcriticism.com.au for Australia /quiz, then you can go there and do the free test and give you some things. And basically we deal with like inner criticism and external criticism. So you can get a sense of where you are, because if you know where you are, then you can plan the next steps. But if you have no idea really of what's going on, then you're kind of lost at sea.
Yeah,
so
and it's so worth putting in the work, because life can be so much better once you've done it. It really can. I know I said this in the beginning, but it's so true. Like when somebody says something to you, it can really hurt, and it can make you question who you are and everything about, just everything, like you could be so well versed in life and so many things, but if somebody turns around and just says something like, oh, but you don't have a degree, or it doesn't matter what it is that they say, it just kind of minimizes all of your accomplishments, and we don't have to feel like that. No. So I love that you've written this book. I love that you're out there and you're teaching people, how to bulletproof this stuff, because I think it really makes a big difference, and it can really impact the world in so many ways. So I appreciate you doing that. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. And I knew we were going to have a good conversation.
Yeah, I don't know. I only have people on my show, honestly, that I connect with. I haven't had one guest that I just don't feel like their heart, that's just who I am. And yeah. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention before we leave today? Or
I think we've pretty much covered everything, except for one thing that I want to mention, and that is one of the coaching modalities I use is called M-braining, or MBIT. Okay. And we talk about 3 major intelligences. Actually, this might be a good conversation for another podcast. So we talk about 3 major intelligences: one in our head, one in our heart, and one in our gut. And when someone is standing correctly, posturally, their heart is slightly ahead of their head, which means that biologically and physically, structurally, we are designed to live from the heart first. Okay. And our head brain and our gut brain are there to serve our heart. And so when people are literally coming from their heart, then they will be on the right track. They'll have much more joy and bliss.
Oh yes, you need to come back. Life. You need to come back. We need to get into this at another time, because honestly, we need to do this again, because there's so much to say about this topic. Okay.
Let's
that's great. Bill, thank you so much. It was so great to meet you. Yeah, and thanks for coming on. And I know that there are people listening at home that you've really helped them today. And I think just open their eyes to, even if it's small, even if all they take away is you don't need to put up with it.
Really.
You don't need to do that, and you need to be your biggest advocate. And when you do come back again, I would love for you to speak a little bit more about your the workshop you want to do with your inner critic and becoming.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because I would love that. I think that's really, really needed in the world, and people are really resistant to the pain, to looking at stuff. And there is no healing without that, and I know that personally. And I think that we need to talk a little bit more about that too.
Sure. Sure.
Well, thank you so much from Australia. It was so great. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe or leave a review. See you next week on the Giving Starts With You podcast.